Hey, it's Ren. As you can see me. No, I thought it was on an old school telephone call then. Of course it's Ren. So I just thought I'd come in and update you on my injury because it's been, I think, probably about 5 or 6 weeks since my injury crash out video, and I totally meant to keep you updated and I didn't. So soz about that. What I did do, because I'm a sensible girly, is I went to my physio on the Wednesday. So I think it would have been the Sunday that I posted the video because I just left training and I was gutted. I was like, oh no, this is a real problem. Like, this knee is not okay. And it got to the point, I booked in with my physio, and at that time, my knee did not want to bend at all. It was in a real state. There was loads of swelling in the knee. It was really painful all the time. You could, weirdly, even though there was loads of swelling, which is the body's like attempt to kind of like shut down movement basically, it still felt really slidey and unstable. And I was like, oh no, I just feel like my knee ain't kneeing in the way that it should. So I was like, I knew that I'd done something pretty serious, and my jerk brain was like, but we can carry on. And really, I knew that the likelihood of me being allowed to continue lots of multi-planar, uncontrolled movement was probably not high. And that's why I was pretty good, because I think you know in your soul, don't you? But I wasn't going to tell myself because, I think sometimes you do need that objective view to somebody to kind of zoom out and go, right, help you make a plan. And that's what I do with people all the time, but it's impossible to do for yourself because you just don't have the objectivity. And I certainly didn't at the time. And I'm in and out on it now. But we've got a sensible plan in place. And, I think having an external person to set milestones with and keep you going through the process is definitely really helpful. So I found out on the day that I went to the physio, so it would have been Wednesday when I went to the physio, and he diagnosed a meniscus tear, which was, I had a bit of a suspicion, given the fact that it had gotten really pissed off during a rotational and flexion pattern, and just the way it felt, I could feel it. It almost felt like there was something like biting in there, but also with a sense of instability and slipping, and I was like, it sounds meniscal. So meniscus tear definitely. And but the thing is, there was so much swelling actually that it was really hard to tell sort of whether the other ligaments were intact, because the body had just sent so much fluid into it to shut down movement. That fluid is really shit. So even though it's quite helpful in the first instance to limit the movement, that fluid, if it sits on your knee, is just not good for it. It stops nutrients getting fully to the knee and the ligaments and all the structures around it, because basically everything's just diluted by all this fluid that's there. Over time, if it's left to stay swollen, it can really it can start to sort of dissolve structures and really kind of cause and just, they can't get the nutrients to them, they don't heal, they don't recover as well. It's just not a happy state for your joints to be in. So, so I, wasn't shocked that it was a meniscal tear, and basically the first order of business was getting rid of the swelling, and until we got rid of the swelling, we weren't going to be able to see actually the true extent of what was going on with the knee. And this is all the physio was doing table testing and movement testing, so we're not looking at imaging or scans or anything at that stage. So just kind of from what we understand from the tape, me just contortioning a leg there, as I imagine those table tests, which are super comfortable and lovely. Not awful. So meniscal tear, but too much fluid to know what else is going on. So the order of business was to get rid of the fluid so that we could begin the healing process. Did get some rehab exercises as well. So my protocol was I started getting on the exercise bike in the morning and the evening, which was really, really valuable. It hurt a little bit at first. I wasn't allowed to use a lot of resistance. We discussed what acceptable pain thresholds were. I have often done that with clients. If you've ever been to me, I've probably discussed you can do a rehab exercise if it causes you this much pain, but not if it causes you that much pain. So just working within those sensible bounds to make sure that it wasn't doing further damage. but getting it moving, because knees like movement. The more the knee isn't moving, the more the muscles around it are atrophying and not giving it like leadership, basically. So if you've got a floppy old joint just flapping around, it's not a happy joint. So it needs movement, and it needs to move as much as it can, as much as you can tolerate, basically within the appropriate bounds of pain. So on the bike twice a day. I was allowed to swim, but not breaststroke, because that's sort of like, you know, a kind of, the kicking of breaststroke is like it's effectively almost like the table test that we do for diagnosing a meniscus tear. So really bad to be doing that and really pissing it off all the time. And yeah, so just swimming. I was allowed to walk in the pool, but only forwards. When I got to the end, I had to turn really carefully as well, because the rotational pattern could be problematic. I really didn't think a lot of pool walking before I had this injury. I hadn't had much experience of it. I'd heard about it, and when the physio sort of said it to me, I was like, yeah, I'll do it as a kind of extra thing. But actually it's been incredibly valuable. So I think the bike and the pool were so valuable in getting it to move. And I think the reason is because it limits the resistance, it limits the weight of you. So you are lighter, but it gives you resistance going forward through the, you know, so you're working the muscles in that way. And it was really interesting how, because I was a little bit lighter, I could feel that my foot could go through its full pronation and resupination cycle in the gait cycle. So I could get more movement out of it, because it basically, this injury is sensitive to load. So if there is too much load, it won't be happy. So if we can take some of the load off, then we can get it moving in the right way. And the pool was a really good way of doing that. So in the pool, striding along, looking like a weirdo, 40 minutes a day, on the bike in the morning and night. It would be like one or the other. So it wouldn't be like 2 bikes and a pool. It would usually be like, I was going to go to what used to be a comfy position. It is no longer a comfy position. It would probably be 2 cardio sessions, either bike or pool. So then sauna, that's been a really big part of my recovery. I've pretty much hit that like 5 times a week, just for getting like blood, heat, like it makes it feel so good. Tend to do a little bit of massage in the sauna as well to try and get rid of the fluid when the fluid was really heavy in it. And I found that really valuable. I also used a cryo cuff and compression boots, and I now have bought those for clinic because I think they're really valuable tools when people are in acute knee injury for getting rid of swelling. I've used the Normatec recovery boots in the past. This time I used a Pulsio. Really good. Stole them off my mom. And now we've acquired some for the clinic. And yeah, absolutely banging. They do like sequential kind of pressure to kind of move the fluid up your legs and around your legs. So it can just help move some of that fluid out, so that you can then commence the process of healing. The cryo cuff as well was really fantastic. So that's like, I'll bring it over actually because it's over here. So with the cryo cuff, you've got a little knee brace doodad. There's actually a little knee brace, and this is like your ice cooler, and basically it fills the knee brace with freezing cold. So it's like an ice, like sticking some peas on it, I guess, but like much better because it fully wraps around the whole knee. So you get it to the places that you actually want it instead of just and it's also a little bit more like you can kind of, you know, like not move around because you're attached to a cooler, but you've just got a little bit more freedom than when you've got like some, you know, 2 bags of vegetables attached to you. So use that quite a lot in the first instance as well. And these are all things that are good for in the acute phase. They're not necessarily things that you need to be doing all the time when you've got a knee injury, but they were so valuable in that acute phase for getting rid of the swelling. And by the time when I first went to the physio, I think roughly speaking, I had about that much flexion in my knee, which is like, oh, so bad. And by the time I visited again 3 weeks later, I was sort of about here. Today, we're just a little bit swollen again for reasons that I'll go into probably in another video, actually, because we're now a little bit further on. But yeah, by the time I got back to the physio, I had significantly more flexion in my knee, which is obviously a great thing. The fluid had also gone.